But time out, just go upstairs.
Yeah,
Go upstairs. They'll be back downstairs before you've even opened your eyes.
It's not go upstairs to your bedroom.
Okay, what is it?
It's go up, it's sit in the toilet.
Yeah.
Until I'm ready to tell you to come out.
Yeah.
Do nothing. Do nothing
Do you
for
know
an
it's-
hour.
Sit in the toilet. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
even face the wall. Like I think face the wall. Destiny faces the wall a lot. Like more times, like face the wall. Even to the point where now it's just like when she does something wrong, she'll be like, "Okay, mommy, I'm going to face the wall." You know, you go and face the wall. Am I got to face the wall now? Yes.
I'm taking notes of that. What about kind of losing privileges?
Absolutely. No Wi-Fi. Take away his iPhone,
Wi-Fi,
his
wow.
iPad.
He has iPhone and iPad. Let me live in your house.
This gadget era.
Yeah.
I mean, take all these things away from him.
What is drawing people back home to Nigeria?
The Nigerian identity and psyche is an extremely powerful one. I believe the average Nigerian is the strongest human being on earth. Because, no, trust me.
I receive it.
If you live in Lagos, I'm a Lagos boy. At times, a whole day in Lagos, you can spend 5 hours in traffic.
Yeah.
There's a story of someone who was dropped off at the airport coming to London, which is a 6-hour flight, and she arrived in London, called home, and the lady who dropped her off was still in traffic. People on a day-to-day basis, people have to deal with so much. But then if you balance that against them, especially who we are like first generation Nigerian diasporans who were born here but went back and lived the Nigerian experience. And even our children who go back on holidays, my children always say, "Look, December, are we going this year?" They look forward to it. So there's that strand really that still connects us strongly to Nigeria.
Is having a sugar daddy similar, the same as being an escort?
Yeah, I do think that the two are very similar. Just because, so an escort, from what I understand and from what I know, you go out, you meet somebody and they pay you for your time. Now, it could be sexual, which a lot of the time I think it is, but some people don't want to admit that it's sexual. I personally think a lot of the time it is, but sometimes I have heard stories of people just saying, "Oh yeah, you just go out and they take you for dinner," and they literally just want company. So again, it's very, very similar to what we discussed already about having a sugar daddy. So both, personally, I don't agree with. Personally, I wouldn't do. Personally, if, for example, my sister came to me and said, "Oh, I've got this new bag, I've got this," and I asked her, "So where did you get the money to buy that?" She said, "Well, I'm doing this escorting thing." I would slap her. That's what I would first do, and I'll tell her, "Can you please value yourself enough to not feel like you have to do that in order for you to get a bag?"
So my uncle, the thing that interests me most about him, he was one of 400 Black Caribbean volunteers who flew as aircrew over Europe. So not carrying boxes, not loading airplanes, but flying. He was a navigator, he was an officer. There were pilots, there were Spitfire pilots, Black West Indians and West African. What motivated them? That's the key, because they tend to be branded as Uncle Toms. And I think a lot of the resistance that the generation today has towards service, if you will, comes from the sense that they're supporting a system they don't believe in.
Yes.
So
you
why
find
did
that
they
in the
fight?
Islamic community
Yes,
as well.
very much so. So why did they fight? Well, he expressed it very clearly. He said, "Look, we were in Jamaica. We had submarines around us in the sea. There were 22 German submarines operating in the Caribbean. We knew that if Hitler defeated England or Britain, then he would come to the colonies and we would return to slavery." So colonial rule was bad, but it wasn't nearly as bad as Nazi rule would have been. And therefore we fought for ourselves. And we fought on the basis that if we demonstrated our abilities and our willingness to fight tyranny, we could not be denied independence thereafter. And many of the people who flew and fought on the ground and sailed became quite active in the independence movements. One of them even became the Prime Minister of Barbados.
Gosh,